Yeah, it's the first time I've walked on stage and actually had people clap for me, so thank you very much. It's a new experience for me. Let's see if we're all clapping when I finish talking. Great to be here in Reykjavik, and I don't know about you, but I was really impressed with the last presentation with the HoloLens and the technology from Microsoft there. Whilst I was watching that, I was reminded of some work that I've seen going on with the Power Networks Demonstration Centre, which is it's a research and development facility that Vodafone is a member of up in Scotland. It's part of the University of Strathclyde. And we get a lot of electrical utilities and other energy companies come through there, commissioning research and development, testing their devices, and also looking at new ideas. As an industrial application of the augmented reality, we're seeing them actively considering and developing applications for field support using the HoloLens type application. So the concept being that an engineer could be out in the field, comes across a situation or a piece of equipment that he's not familiar with, taps into the technical support office and gets advice live over the communications with some augmented reality, cut the blue wire, don't push the red button, wait until the light goes green type information coming back from the techs. And that's a real application that we're seeing being developed right now that builds on the sort of capability that Microsoft are pushing out there. So it's I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be quite exciting when it really goes fully commercial. So my colleagues told me just before I came up that apparently Bjork has played on this same stage here. So she's going to be really excited to know that I'm following along behind her, and yeah, it's going to be a big thing for her. I really can't wait to hear. And no, they're very, very, very exciting. So I work as you've just been told, Vodafone. I work in the IoT team. I work in market development. I focus specifically on utilities and smart cities and smart energy type projects. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of smart cities now. I wasn't told before I came up that I was going to tell everybody everything about everything that was going to happen in the future. That's a completely new brief. So I'm going to go with the notes that I've prepared, and if there's any gaps, you'll just have to excuse me. Okay. So modern cities are under a lot of pressure in many, many ways. They're under pressure from pollution in various different forms. They're under pressure from crime, from the population. They're under pressure in terms of congestion. We'll look a little bit at that in a minute. From litter and from traffic. The list of pressures on the modern city is completely endless. But through IoT technology, we're seeing lots of initiatives to address these problems and that are helping cities to overcome some of these issues. We heard from Chris Meering of HP earlier on about the HP Enterprise approach to the smart city problem. It's good to hear that they're ascribing to open protocols and lightweight M2M and things like that. I know Chris personally. He's a good guy. I'm going to give you the Vodafone view. Let's hope that we can dovetail with that view. I'm going to do a short video now. I'm going to hold my breath slightly because when you heard earlier that we were fighting with the presentation, it's this that we were fighting with. I'm going to give a very, very quick, it's not a long video, overview on the number of ways in which IoT is being used to address the smart city problem space. It's absolutely changing the way we live. It's really starting to impact now. The IoT is massive now. It's going to be even bigger. Vodafone predict that by 2020, well, let's throw out some telephone numbers, but in terms of our low-power wireless access product that I'll be touching on, and we did a presentation on in the hall earlier today, over 50% of connections we reckon will be LPWA-type connections by 2020. Let's see. No presentation, obviously.
Picture a world where all kinds of products, from cars and home appliances to industrial wind turbines, can communicate about their status and usage in real time. Manufacturers have the power to detect and fix faults with these products before the user ever even notices the problem. Or how about a world where healthcare can happen in the home instead of the hospital? It's now possible for doctors to monitor patients around the clock and deliver care remotely, freeing up beds and enabling those with chronic conditions to live a more normal life. Or imagine a world in which everything around us, from buildings and bridges to roads and railways, can sense and respond to changing events. Smart cities have the potential to help governments and the private sector tackle society's biggest problems, including congestion, pollution, and crime. Why stop there? Tracking assets across continents, transforming retail cabinets into intelligent objects, and taking control of energy use. These are just a few of the smart services that the Internet of Things is enabling. The IoT is already transforming industries around the world, giving visionary companies the information and insight they need to save money, reduce risk, and better serve their customers. But more than that, it's opening up radical opportunities to innovate entirely new business models and product categories, enabling the as-a-service economy. When everything is connected, the possibilities are endless. For 25 years, Vodafone has been helping industry leaders bring their boldest ideas to life, including companies like Porsche, BMW, Npower, and Amazon. With our unmatched capabilities, experience, and global reach, we can help you take advantage of all that the Internet of Things has to offer too. So what are you waiting for? Let's transform lives and business.
There we go. So it's that transformation that Vodafone IoT was set up to enable. If you think the Microsoft presentation was brilliant and exciting and innovating, wait till I tell you about the connected dustbin. It's going to change your life, seriously. Oh, amazing. IoT, it can absolutely touch and enable and enhance almost every aspect of our lives. Vodafone's been doing this for a number of years. The IoT division has been leading that charge. We're regularly bigged up by the analysts, and we would assert that we've got an unrivaled experience in this space. Got a vision statement, it's on the board. We had a bit of debate about that amongst the team, and we thought we ought to have a city vision statement because actually we wanted to try and crystallize what smart city would mean and what a vision statement for smart cities would be. This is our attempt. It's something that we came up with last week sometime between myself and the team in Vodafone Iceland. I'm sure everybody's got their own definition about what smart cities really means. If I was to ask every one of you in turn, I'd get a completely different answer. That's the space we live in, and it's exciting, it's evolving. A little bit about Vodafone IoT. We are organised to focus on 8 key verticals. Transport and logistics, covering a lot of track and trace type stuff, industry and manufacturing, covering remote machine control, retail and consumer goods. In the case of consumer goods, as an example, lots of Amazon Kindles have got a Vodafone IoT chip in them for downloading your ebooks. Home and office, health and wellness, e-care, utilities, and automotive. We've got a huge amount of experience in all of these segments. Pragmatically, smart city, because of the dynamic nature of the vertical, draws capability from all of these into a hybridized vertical. But also there are some applications in there that are very, very distinctly smart city. We'll touch on a few of those towards the end of the presentation. So Vodafone's got quite a few things that we would put in the smart city basket. These represent projects that are either complete or in progress or are planned. We're connecting new projects all across the globe. We're regularly partnering with not only other enterprises to provide these projects or to complete these projects, but also with local and national, regional governments, academia, and of course startup companies. When I come to events like this, I almost always prefer to spend my time really looking at what's in the startup space. I really like dealing with startup companies, and you almost always find a gem in there somewhere. And in IoT, I think several people have said today it's very exciting. They learn or they hear of something new every day. Certainly, if I think back at what I was doing last week, absolutely no change there. I came across a company which has been started up by a friend of mine I've known for a number of years, but he got in touch a few weeks ago, and they're doing self-powered sensors. They're interested in our low-power wireless access product as part of that. But the concept of a sensor that would work inside your asset for the entire life of the asset with no need to worry about providing it with energy or changing the batteries is really quite exciting. And they've got some unique IPR in that space. Anybody wants to know about them, they can talk to me after the presentation. I'd be happy to tell you. So, what is the smart city opportunity? Well, the smart city opportunity is being driven by a major global trend of urbanization. By 2050, an additional 2.5 million people living in urbanizations all around the globe. 2.5 billion, rather. So, smarting a city is not a luxury. If you've got that concentration of citizens living in your urbanization, your infrastructure has absolutely got to cope. There's no opportunity to use or to rely upon infrastructure that is not both bigger, but also operating more efficiently. Operating more efficiently meaning dealing with a larger volume of people, a larger volume of transactions with less human intervention and less investment as well, or costing less to run, certainly. City leaders and governments are very, very acutely aware of this trend and the pressures that it's bringing onto the urbanizations, and they see IoT technology as being a fundamental enabler to being able to service that requirement. Connecting these infrastructures together and delivering increased utilization, increased differentiation, and ultimately a better standard of living for everybody within the community. There's a lot of drivers behind smart cities. Futurists, futurologists have long predicted and painted a utopian vision of the smart city, a gleaming metropolis, clean streets, automatically swept with transport systems that are well engineered and run to time, and where the issues of crime and pollution and congestion have all been engineered away into irrelevance. The problem is completely newly built gleaming metropolises are fairly few and far between. The reality is that real cities are not like that. Real cities exist, they've got ragged edges, they've got things that don't work very well, they weren't planned to scale to the extent to which they have, and therefore they need to be able to adopt smart city applications, smart city use cases into the city that they've already got, to make best use of the infrastructure that they've got. And ultimately, the aim is to provide an ability for the city to act coherently and simultaneously across the whole application space. The problem is, you could sit down and you could try and eat the whole elephant. You could design a smart city or a smart city delivery into an existing city, pulling in every application to a grand unified dashboard, starting from one end of the city and sweeping across the other end of the city, and delivering a very, very complex, multifunctional smart city architecture. Problem is, not necessarily for engineering reasons, but for political or economic reasons, actually that tends to be not to be the way that smart city architectures come into being. Smart city architectures tend to come into being as a series of point solutions. And that's actually the approach that we see being taken more and more often. So we see these applications, as I said, these projects coming into play across cities in all different stages of development, not necessarily across whole cities. Sometimes they're only addressing point solutions on housing estates, sometimes they're major regenerations. Local refresh projects could be something as simple as smart CCTV with some back-end analytics to control crime and antisocial behaviour in particular local hotspots. I would assert that's a smart city application. It could also be an entire new energy-efficient greenfield development. New cities being grown from scratch where there was no town before. We've seen that as well. So what are the key application areas that we see? As I said, often we see city councils, city utilities starting by delivering or by smarting some public services that are both key pain points and which have an existing and compelling and proven business case. They tend to be things like energy use, applications targeting energy use, talk about one of them in a minute, waste collection, My Smart Bin, Hove's interview, traffic and parking. All of these things, very, very visible to citizens, directly impact their quality of life, have established and proven business cases, mature technologies. Ultimately, though, it's more than connectivity. And it's more applications than connectivity. I hear about a new application, not necessarily every day, but certainly every month. All of these applications are out there in some form. We've seen them delivered. In some cases, we've delivered our own products that deliver this capability. The Vodafone connectivity services are providing a ubiquitous and intelligent communication layer for cities and citizens alike. IoT will improve the operational efficiency, it will increase citizen satisfaction, it will enhance safety and security, and ultimately, as we will see with some proven business cases, it will create a more sustainable society. As we already said, cities tend to grow their smart infrastructure as a series of point solutions, a series of silos, okay? Chris talked about this in his presentation earlier on, and silos, you know, I'm sure there's some architects out there who will start throwing things at me in a minute. To an extent, silo-based functional units are fine, as long as they're open architectures. As long as you can pull the data out of them, as long as there's an API so that you can push control commands down into them, that's fine. Because what they let you do is they let the city eat its elephant. They let it concentrate on delivering a series of functional blocks with the goal of creating a city dashboard and pulling the data that's useful out of their siloed applications into some form of data lake or business repository, data repository, such that they can enrich that with third-party analytics, with third-party data and with analytics, and crank extra value out of the data that they're gathering. We've seen smart city components deployed for one purpose, but used as sensor platforms for a multitude of purposes. As an example, smart street lighting. We've seen smart street lighting used as a mechanism for pollution control by reporting on levels of noise within a city. Noise is a form of pollution. Street lights are everywhere. They're a great platform for sensors. Okay, I'm from Vodafone. Of course, we're all about the communication, and the majority will know Vodafone for its mobile phones and for its cellular connectivity. But there are some applications, particularly in the smart city space, that are high volume, very high volume, remote, deep, or distant in terms of the location of the sensor, and need to be battery powered, and need to operate for a long, long time in that space. Cellular is great for some applications, but there is a requirement for a new solution to be able to address those kind of applications. Vodafone has been working with the 3GPP for a few years now, developing the standard for narrowband IoT, which is a low-power wide access technology. It's been explicitly designed from the ground up to be appropriate for use in very, very large volume deployments of sensors. It's designed to be very low power. The devices themselves are designed to be very low power and to run for years on a battery. It's designed to be able to connect sensors that are deep or distant. So we've been running a trial. I'm not going to show you the video. We've been running a trial in Spain recently with a water company down there. We asked them to give us their hardest to hit locations for their water meters. And we've successfully executed the trial. You can find it on YouTube if you Google Vodafone Agua de Valencia. We've hit their hardest to hit locations with our narrowband IoT platform in every single case. Thank you very much. So, when does narrowband IoT become the viable communications bearer versus 2G, 4G? There's a fairly simple formula for that. If you have a very sophisticated device that needs a high performance and a fast data rate, high volumes of data, traditional cellular services, low bandwidth, deep coverage, long battery life, low-cost devices, narrowband IoT. There was a talk earlier on, hope you saw it, talking about Vodafone and narrowband IoT. So, four more slides to go. Not many. Typically, we see a few foundation projects being rolled out in smart cities. I've got 3 examples prepared. The intent being to create open functional silos very quickly, robust, proven business cases, all of which positively benefit the citizens or the city. The first one that we see being rolled out most often is a street lighting, or is a street lighting project. Street lighting generally accounts for 19% of the world's energy consumption in total. Smart lighting has the potential to reduce energy consumption in street lighting by 90%. 2 ways, conversion to LEDs, and the second is a dynamic control of the lighting. But it's not just about energy, it's also about carbon. That's a great thing, but it's not just about that. It's about the ability to change the way in which you manage that street lighting infrastructure. It enables your maintenance to move from reactive to proactive, and it also enables you to react within the city more to incidents or events that are taking place. So, for example, in this area around here, if there are no events on, why would you light this very, very brightly? If there's a huge event on, you would want that lit brightly, certainly when everyone's leaving the conference centre, and then once everyone's gone home, you could manage that down. If there is an emergency instance, say a traffic accident in a particular location, you can bring all the street lighting around that location up to 150% of nominal. That's great for the emergency services. It means that they can see everything that's going on. It's great for emergency services that are trying to find the location of the crash. They head for the bright bit. So Vodafone is partnered with Philips in this space. Philips Lighting is one of the global leaders in smart street lighting. It's an open platform. The CityTouch platform has been adopted by more than 300 customers worldwide in 30 countries, and is equipped with open APIs enabling the control system to be integrated into follow-on systems, dashboards, and so forth. Next thing that we see, it's here, the smart bin. Told you. 3 basic precepts. Only empty bins that are full. For collections, drive an optimal route every day that is dynamically calculated based upon the utilization, based upon the requirement to empty bins. And finally, it opens the way to drive recycling and to identify those consumers who are using more or producing more waste than possibly they should. In an example that we ran in the Netherlands, in a trial with microdata, a city council there managed to reduce their CO2 emissions on waste collection by a fifth. They've rolled out 6,000 smart bins to housing estates in that area. And there are some interesting use cases in there as well. They had a problem with bins catching fire, so they equipped it with a fire sensor. That's great for putting out the bin, fire in the bin, but it's also great about for reducing the collateral damage. If a bin is on fire next to a building or next to your car, you'd really like to be told about that and have it put out as soon as possible. Smart parking. Next one up. Smart parking is another interesting one. During rush hour, up to 30% of congestion within a city is taken up by people looking for a parking space. If you can help them get to the parking spaces, there's a huge opportunity there to reduce congestion. There's also a huge opportunity to increase utilization of parking spaces, because in unmanaged parking scenarios, up to 15% of the parking spaces are still empty. People never find them. So that is another driver for taking the congestion down, but also for increasing the revenue you take off the parking spaces. It also has another interesting side effect that we weren't expecting in terms of parking violations. Let's say you'd booked your parking space, you turned up and someone was parked in it. They're obviously occupying the space. You thought you'd booked it. That's a problem for you. You push a button on your phone. A parking warden's dispatched directly to that spot and puts a ticket on the car. Great. That's the guy gets fined. Probably doesn't do it again. Serial offenders who go around doing that very quickly realize that they're going to get caught almost 100% of the time. So they get on the bus, or they stop doing it, or they start paying for their parking. That's great, but it also increases the utilization of the traffic wardens. They don't spend their time walking around looking for devices now, looking for parking offenders now. They've moved from reactive to proactive enforcement. Their utilization goes up, and you need less parking inspectors, which is a great thing. So we're currently trialling smart parking in multiple different territories. We're working, for example, in Westminster in central London with a New Zealand company, bizarrely called Smart Parking. We've deployed smart parking sensors across the Westminster estate, and we're providing analytics and connectivity into that project. Ultimately, that's the largest smart parking service in Europe. We've also got trials going on in other territories. For example, we have a platform up and under demonstration in Turkey. So there we go. Three examples. You'd be glad to know that's the end of my slides. But I have a conclusion. So if I had to, I was thinking before I came down here, if I had to leave 4 or 5 parting thoughts for councils, what would they be? It would be start somewhere, do something that saves money and demonstrates value very, very quickly. Look to create open silos such that you can reuse the information that you collect from your platforms. Leverage an advanced communications system, and keep moving forward. Integrate and enhance. Have a destination in mind. That's it. Thank you.